When Ched announced that it was cutting ties with African parks, the conservation charity so proudly championed by Prince Harry, the cracks in the Sussexes' carefully manufactured image widened dramatically. This was no minor diplomatic hiccup. Ched cited failures in wildlife protection, underinvestment, and disrespect toward the government as the reasons for terminating the partnership. That's a devastating list for any organization, but for one so closely tied to Harry, it's a reputational earthquake. And hovering over all of it, inevitably, is Meghan Markle. For years, Meghan and Harry have wrapped themselves in the aura of impact, leadership, and global responsibility, parading their projects as moral trophies to justify their royal exit. African Parks was one of Harry's star affiliations, a place where he could claim to be more than just a celebrity royal, where he could appear to be a serious, hands-on humanitarian. It fit the Sussex narrative perfectly, Harry the savior of Africa, Meghan the supportive partner, the pair stepping into the role of modern global figures. But now that Ched has publicly severed ties, that narrative has been punctured. What remains is an uncomfortable truth: lofty words and glossy PR do not equal results. Ched's statement was blunt. It accused African Parks of neglecting its commitments and failing to deliver tangible conservation outcomes. For a country to use such strong language against a supposedly prestigious international NGO is rare and telling. It suggests not only organizational shortcomings but also a fundamental lack of respect for local partners. This is not some distant scandal that Harry can brush off with a well-placed interview or a polished Netflix documentary. It is a formal, government-issued rebuke that lands directly at the doorstep of a charity where Harry is not just a figurehead but a prominent board member. And where was Meghan Markle in all this? Predictably, nowhere near the mess. Meghan has always positioned herself as the sophisticated, image-conscious architect of their global brand. She revels in the high-profile speeches, the staged humanitarian visits, the red carpet appearances wrapped in the language of service. But when real-world consequences emerge, when alliances break down, when accountability is required, she is curiously silent. It's the same pattern we've seen time and again. The Sussexes love the spotlight of noble causes, but they vanish when scrutiny arrives. The Ched African Parks fallout doesn't just reflect on Harry's charity work, it highlights the fragility of the Sussexes' entire public image. Their post-royal identity is built on partnerships, causes, and endorsements carefully selected to portray them as visionary global figures. But partnerships require more than photo opportunities. They require trust, follow-through, and respect for local contexts. Ched's decision suggests those elements were missing, and that reflects disastrously on the Sussexes' brand of leadership. For Meghan, this is especially awkward. She has long cultivated the image of the savvy strategist behind the Sussex operation, casting herself as the modernizing force who could outmaneuver the old royal system. But this situation reveals the limits of image-making. No amount of designer outfits or podcast platitudes can mask organizational failure. When governments cut ties, when projects falter, Meghan's polished rhetoric suddenly looks hollow, because it is. It's also worth noting the political undertones here. Ched's government did not simply slip away quietly, it issued a pointed critique. In diplomatic language, this is as close to a slap as one gets. For African Parks, this undermines its credibility across the continent. For Harry, it diminishes his claim to be a serious player in conservation. And for Meghan, it disrupts the power couple narrative she has worked so hard to maintain. Suddenly, the global humanitarian duo looks more like a celebrity pair playing at leadership without truly understanding the stakes. This is not an isolated embarrassment. It fits a pattern of grand promises followed by underwhelming results. Their archewel foundation has repeatedly faced questions over transparency and tangible impact. Their media ventures, whether the Spotify deal that fizzled out or the uneven Netflix output, have shown how quickly glossy announcements can lead to disappointing outcomes. The African Parks fallout adds a more serious, geopolitical dimension to this pattern. It's not just media partners or the public that are losing patience, it's governments. And Meghan, who has never shied away from inserting herself into high-level narratives when it benefits her, cannot now claim distance. Her influence is baked into the Sussex brand. When Harry's reputation takes a hit, so does hers. She was eager to stand beside him when the charity work brought glowing headlines. It is only fair, then, that she shares the fallout when reality bites. The most striking part of this entire debacle is how it exposes the gap between appearance and substance. For years, the Sussexes have operated on the assumption that polished branding, emotional speeches, and celebrity connections would shield them from real scrutiny. But Chad's decision shows that governments and communities do not bend to celebrity gloss. Conservation work is not a vanity project, it is a serious, complex endeavor that demands accountability. If African Parks failed in its duties, and Chad's accusations are damning, then Harry, as a leading figure, bears responsibility. And Meghan, as the architect of their global persona, cannot pretend this is irrelevant to her carefully curated image.